Hello and welcome to Global Eye. Over the next 30 minutes, we put the spotlight on India's bilateral ties with the European Union. I'm Parikshit Luthra. In a bid to strengthen ties between India and the European Union, Prime Minister Narendra Modi met European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen in New Delhi today. In what is one of the largest delegations to come to India, 22 commissioners from the EU are part of the delegation led by the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen herself. This is the first trip of Europe by the college that took office in December and the first ever visit to India by the commissioners together. Indian officials said that this visit marked a significant phase in bilateral relations with the EU, as India and the European Union enter the third decade of their strategic partnership.
I believe this is a clarion call for all of us as we stand here in 2025 at another inflection point. We have all seen how countries are weaponizing their sources of strength against each other. We have seen a more aggressive posture from major powers, and of course the conflicts have destabilized entire regions. How countries, in particular in the Global South, are looking for alternatives to what the international system has offered them. And we have seen clear attempts to split off parts of the world into isolated fragments.
Let me take you through the key outcomes from the bilateral meeting. The meeting between the two nations set the ball rolling on an India-EU free trade agreement. Prime Minister Modi said that both sides were working on realizing the FTA by 2025 end. The visit saw extensive discussions between the two sides, with nearly 20 ministerial-level meetings held across different sectors. India and the European Union outlined a roadmap for collaboration in trade, technology, investment and innovation, with a key focus on agreements to enhance collaboration in semiconductors, artificial intelligence, high-performance computing and 6G as well. Both sides have also decided to initiate a dedicated space dialogue in a major move to boost global trade routes. Both nations have agreed to take concrete measures to advance the India-Middle East-Europe economic corridor. Plans for a green hydrogen forum were also announced, while joint research initiatives would be undertaken on electric vehicle batteries, marine plastics, green hydrogen. That's not all. India and the EU are strengthening their defense cooperation, especially in maritime security and the Indo-Pacific region. Welcoming the EU's decision to join the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative. Last but not the least, there was also an agreement on interoperability of DPI between Aadhaar and EU digital wallets.
EV बैटरीज, मरीन प्लास्टिक्स और ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन में जॉइंट रिसर्च किया जाएगा। साथ ही सस्टेनेबल अर्बन डेवलपमेंट पर हम अपने जॉइंट प्लान को आगे बढ़ाएंगे। कनेक्टिविटी के क्षेत्र में इंडिया, मिडिल ईस्ट, यूरोप इकोनॉमिक कॉरिडोर यानी आईमेक, उसे आगे ले जाने के लिए ठोस कदम उठाए जाएंगे।
The Commissioner's visit comes at a time when the ties between EU and the United States are under a lot of pressure. US President Donald Trump has threatened 25% tariffs on the European Union. This comes after Trump claimed that the EU was formed to screw the US. The European Commission did not take this lying down. It shot back at the US, saying EU is the world's largest free trade market and has been a boon for the United States. To understand all this, I spoke to Roxana Mînzatu, Executive Vice President, Social Rights, Skills, Quality Jobs and Preparedness at the European Commission. I started by asking her about the significance of the India-EU bilateral meeting.
We are living disruptive times, times where I think it's all the more natural for two traditional partners like European Union and India come together for economic reasons, but for values, let's say, as well. We share some values like predictability, democracy, order-based rules. And so these are values that connect us naturally. And of course, economy is an important part of the reason why we are together. Together, if you look at the European economy and the Indian economy, we amount to a quarter of the global GDP. that really says something. And if we look at the exchanges of goods that the EU and India have had in 2024, it's 120 billion euros. Impressive amounts. Also for Europe, there are, of course, obvious reasons why we want to enhance our economic and political cooperation. There are more than 6,000 European companies that are here in India creating jobs. India is also a country that is producing tremendous talent, and of course I am in charge with skills, and we've talked a lot about how important it is to exchange on talent, on skills, on mobility, and that helps us both from the perspective of our economies, but from the perspectives of offering opportunities to our people, opportunities to have good careers, good jobs, to launch startups, to improve the, let's say, the soundness and the strengths of our societies.
As EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said that Make in India and Make in Europe are complementary and they can support the industries of the two countries. I'd like to speak about geopolitical competition in both technology and manufacturing. This will also require countries to increase their competitiveness. What are you doing to increase the competitiveness of the European Union? What's the task at hand?
In January, we are a new commission. As you know, we started our mandate on December 1st. So in January, very soon into the mandate, we've adopted this competitiveness compass, which is, let's say, the way that we will filter every policy that we will adopt as Commission, driven towards competitiveness, innovation, clean growth. Again, clean, green economic growth is something that we share with India, the ambitions of net zero economies with different timelines, but we share these. So, of course, we need to put all the ingredients towards competitiveness, more investment, top-notch technology, of course, a stronger single market inside the Union, more partnerships with key, let's say, stakeholders in the global arena, and I think India is absolutely a key stakeholder. It's part of Ursula von der Leyen's political guidelines. And, of course, investing in people and investing in skills. So that is how the recipe that we are intending to use to create much more competitiveness and productivity in the European economy. But the idea that is behind our reunion today in Delhi, and that is heading towards the strategic agenda that we want to build together, is that we cannot grow separate from the rest of the world. We share this notion that we grow together, cooperation, exchange, free trade. These are ingredients that provide mutual growth, that provide for a sustainable and clean growth, that provide for order, for peace, for well-being of our peoples and of our nations. And this is the recipe that we want together, EU and India, to be able to champion in the future, in the present and in the future.
Right. You know, when it comes to Europe, and as we're seeing in other parts of the world, is slow growth. What is the biggest concern around competitiveness, about skilling, about jobs, quality jobs that you have right now, the biggest concern in the European context?
Look, we are looking at multiple causes of the transformation. It's indeed the global geostrategic competition. It's the discussion about tariffs. But it also is the technological disruptive evolution, looking at the automotive sector, for example. We are now, and I'm also directly involved with my colleagues, commissioners, we are now working on an action plan to support and boost the European automotive industry to be able not just to adapt to competition or to the green transition to electric vehicles, but to the, let's say, driverless cars, to the software-driven cars, to the challenges of the future. So for this, we really need to tackle things from different perspectives. How we invest in companies, how we skill the workers so that they're able to use AI in their daily job, how we integrate technology into the products of the future. So this is for sure the way to look in an integrative, let's say, manner at the way that we approach the challenges that we have. It's not just automotive, and it's not just Europe that is dealing with these challenges. That's why we think that working together is much more efficient, because if you think the industry has borders like automotive or steel, it does and it does not. In the end, we need to find the common solutions and we need to complement each other. And I think that is possible between partners that are trustworthy and reliable, such as India and the European Union.
My final question, this is the week when we're observing the third anniversary of the Ukraine-Russia war. You were in Ukraine this week. Any thoughts that you'd like to leave here with our audience about the state of the war and the way the negotiations are going to end it?
Look, for Europe, Ukraine is important in many respects. We need to understand we cannot look at any peace negotiation about Ukraine without Ukraine and the European Union at the table. Also, we need to understand that Ukrainians, while they are fighting for their land, for their freedom, they are fighting for Europe as well. And that their future, we need to understand, is in the European Union. So this was a message that together we sent the College of Commissioners by being in Kiev and discussing with the Ukrainian government. Now, from my perspective as a commissioner in charge with people, with skills, with the social policies, what I took with me, I met veterans, I met soldiers that had been fighting the war. I met a soldier that had lost his hand and came back and worked in the Ministry of Interior to support veterans that will return. And the discussion is now, how will Ukraine reconstruct the economy once we hope that we are able to obtain a just and sustainable peace? But my point was, how are we also going to reconstruct the people? Because these people lived unimaginable tragedies. They fight and they exist, living each day like it is the last. There is tremendous material, let's say, loss, but there's also human and spiritual loss. People may return alive from the war, but they are not the same. So there's a lot of rebuilding with the veterans in Ukraine. And what impressed me is their positive agenda and the way they saw proactively the role of veterans who have seen such drama but still are resilient and are able to come back and teach resilience and inspire even economic growth on the models of other veterans who managed to change the communities where they return to. So what lessons? Lessons of loss, of tremendous human tragedy, but of resilience and of hope. The Ukrainian people have sent us this message to us last week.
All right, so that was the EU Vice President for Quality Jobs, Skilling, and she was speaking about how to increase the competitiveness and also the recent visit of EU commissioners to Ukraine. Before we head into a short break, here are some visuals of the EU commissioners travelling to Hyderabad House in New Delhi, where Prime Minister Modi and von der Leyen held bilateral talks. The bus is powered by hydrogen fuel cell technology developed by both Tata Motors and Indian Oil. So you can see all the commissioners in that bus and Prime Minister Modi meeting the EU Commission President right outside the bus in the Hyderabad House as well. We leave you with those visuals. We're coming back after a break. Welcome back. You are watching Global Eye. Our focus today on EU-India relations in the context of EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen's visit to India with the biggest ever delegation of European commissioners, 22 of them to be specific. Our focus also was to discuss the biggest threats confronting Europe right now and how EU and India can collaborate on startups, research and innovation for the future as well. Joining us right now to speak about all of this is Ekaterina Zaharieva, who is the EU Commissioner for Startups, Research and Innovation. Let me begin by asking you about the kind of statements that we've been hearing from the United States. The US President going on to say that the EU was created to cheat the United States. J.D. Vance said at the Munich Security Conference that EU is actually retreating from its core values. In this context, do you feel that its time has come for the European Union to really rethink and review its long-term foreign policy?
I wouldn't say that it's time to review his long-term foreign policy, but it's time to rethink its economic security and autonomy, and which we do actually. Actually, it was before elections in the United States. First it was COVID, somehow wake up us, I mean, not only in Europe, but I think all over the world, that it's not okay to rely only on one supplier, no matter which is the supplier, which is the country. So in that we should rethink our economic autonomy and then the brutal war in Ukraine, when Russia and Putin attacked a neighboring country just because they want to be a part of NATO or joining European Union. So somehow the citizens of that country don't have the right to decide by themselves which unions to join. And then Europe was a bit a lot dependent, I would say, on Russian natural resources like gas, oil, etc. So we start to be very much focused on diversing and also to strengthen our RNI, European, very strong actually research capacity and innovation capacity. So focusing on critical materials, focusing on advanced materials, focusing on also on AI, on quantum, on semiconductors, on biotech, life sciences, etc.
The US is threatening reciprocal tariffs on everyone. They've also said that Europe has been unfair to them. How do you see these reciprocal tariffs coming in, and what will be your message to the US?
I already said this is not win-win. This will be lose-lose situation for us, but for them as well. So as our Commissioner Šefčovič said, we are ready to negotiate, we are ready to look at the tariffs and to negotiate, but this will be, even in short, not only in long run, maybe it will be some short win, but it will be in long, even medium term, a lose-lose situation. So, and I think this will be, I hope they will rethink this position, but we'll see.
Okay, let me ask you about the importance of European Union's visit to India. Now, this is the largest ever delegation that has come. The timing is very significant as well. Let me ask you about closer collaboration on startups. Yesterday, you had the good opportunity to meet startups in India. Give us a sense of the kind of collaboration on startups that you are planning, envisaging for India and EU.
It is a really, I think, a very important visit. As you said, it's a historical one. It's for the first time the whole college, almost the whole college is here. Only the colleagues who have some councils and other duties are not here. We have, before the college to government meeting, we have the second Trade and Technology Council meeting in the morning. And my working group, it's Clean and Tech. So we are working on three main challenges, I would say, for India, for European Union, but also big opportunity as well. The first is a plastic litter, which is India, I think, generates 10 billion tons. We in Europe 16. and recycling and improving the management of this plastic litter will be beneficiary for both sides. So we are focusing on research and innovation, working together and committed with 20 million euro calls for European researchers and Indian researchers to work together to find solutions. The second is also challenging but also big opportunity for the business. It's electric batteries recycling. The expectation is that until 2030 there will be 200 million batteries to be recycled. Third is also big opportunity for India, but also for Europe. The fact that we have committed Europe to reach a neutrality in 2050, India in 2070. It's we call this project from waste to clean hydrogen. India has a big potential on that.
Ma'am, I'd also like to ask you about the barriers that you mentioned. What are some of the barriers that European companies are facing in India right now, which you hope that the Indian government will work on addressing?
They see the political stability is very good. So I'll start with the positive things. Political stability in the country is very something that is positive. Also the big market, of course, is a very big market. The skilled people, very big advantage of India. This is the analysis that the private sector share with us. And then they mentioned some, I would say, barriers. It's legislation, some a bit difficult procedures that they said when they go to the market. You have this some certification process which is long to be able to sell their products in the market. It's a bit long and complicated for them. But that's why we work in this Trade and Technology Council actually in recognition of certification, joint certification, which will improve both actually ways Indian companies and European companies' lives a lot. For example, in my working group, we work on joint standards for battery charging of electric vehicles, which will open possibility for Indian producers for the European market if we have standardization on that, and the same for European producers who want to sell on the European market. But in general, they said it's a country which we want to invest further. And they are waiting for and very hopeful that we will manage to complete negotiations for the free trade agreement that we negotiated since 2022. Actually, since many years, but the negotiations were started in 2022. So our president and Indian Prime Minister. They somehow give a task to the commissioners who are leading the negotiations, and the Indian Minister and European Commissioner, which is Maroš Šefčovič, to complete negotiations until the end of this year. It will be the biggest, if it's happened, and I'm very hopeful that it will happen, it will be the biggest trade agreement in the world.
All right. Ekaterina Zaharieva, thank you so much for joining us here on Global Eye. With that, we come to the end of this special broadcast on EU-India ties. The big takeaway is both countries will now be accelerating the progress on the free trade agreement with the hope to conclude this trade deal by the end of 2025. That's all we have time for. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.